nooks and crannies. We have some lens tissue. Some isopropyl alcohol. So this is the Nikon F2. This is the body. We're going to start with this. It's very heavy. It's very heavy actually. I don't really know how much it weighs, but I know it's heavy. I've got a few areas of it that I want to clean. I mean, we're cleaning the whole thing, but there's some areas that stand out, I guess. So this is the camera. I had to record this voiceover after the fact because my mic was not picking up my voice while I was originally recording this. My setup is not so great right now, so here we are with the voiceover. I started by using this isopropyl alcohol with lens tissue. I just did a general sort of sanitization of the outside of the camera. I had sent it to a shop down in San Diego to get it repaired because when it was given to me at first, it didn't work, but I didn't know why because everything seemed to be functioning properly. It just wouldn't actually take exposures. So I had someone look at it and they fixed it for me. So this is me getting the camera back like from the mail, like from a package. So it's all kind of a little grimy. I wanted to sanitize it, I guess. There is like a little problem area sort of on the top of one of the dials, which I was pointing to earlier. I came to find out later that I believe that it's rust or something that isn't dirt, some kind of wear that I can't actually clean off. But for now I just went in with the isopropyl alcohol and was just trying to get in between the nooks and crannies of certain parts. You can see, or you will see, that there's a lot of dirt on this camera, even though it does not necessarily look dirty. It hasn't been cleaned in a very long time, so I also have to apologize. A lot of this video is out of focus, and I had intended to show off the camera more, but like I said, my setup is not ideal right now, so we're just kind of rolling with it. I had a really fun time cleaning this camera. I was a little bummed afterwards to find that it didn't pick up a lot of my audio, but the process of cleaning it was very fun. It's a very meticulous process. You can see I'm trying to get that dirt off the top of the knob right now, or you could see. But yeah, I was never able to really find out what it was, but it wasn't coming off, so my best guess is that it's some this is very, you can barely hear anything. There's no real triggers or anything like that when it comes to actually cleaning the camera. So I guess maybe it's maybe it was meant to happen that my audio didn't actually record and that I had to come back and do this so I can actually ramble about some interesting things, possibly. But I have been trying ever since I got this camera to learn how to master manual exposure, and it's very difficult. It's been fun, but I took a class, a single black and white photography class years ago, and that's why I have this camera. Actually, my grandfather gave it to me for that class, and then of course it didn't work, so I couldn't end up using it at the time. But I found it again recently and decided to get it fixed so that I could sort of get into it as a hobby. Even though it is, as everyone says, it's kind of universally known, it's a little bit expensive, but it's been really interesting to try and remember what I can from the class that I took. I must have taken it in 2017 or 18. It was a while ago. So I don't remember much, but I do remember the feel of it, and I generally remember the process. But I almost wish that there were like maybe some kind of dark room that you could not like rent out, but you could sort of have a space and reserve a time or something and just use the dark room yourself. When I was taking the class that I took, my school had a dark room. They had the whole thing set up, so we got to learn how to use all of that equipment, and we had to learn how to develop our own film and make prints, and it was really fun. I do remember. So it's kind of a bummer that if I would want to do that, I would have to actually invest a lot more time and money into this hobby. I don't know, it feels like film photography is a big enough hobby at this point that it might be cool to have spaces where you could go and do that yourself instead of having to do it at home or pay someone to do it for you. Maybe those places do exist, but there's certainly none where I live, so it's unfortunate, but it has been really fun. It's been very fun. I've watched so many videos about the things to avoid when you start getting into film photography, and conscious attempt to, in my free time, back away from my phone or whatever I do to sort of rot my brain and come back to what I used to do when I was in, say, I don't know, 7th or 8th grade, and actually just do creative activities in my free time. Like when I was younger, I would just draw all the time, and it was never good drawings, and a lot of the time they weren't even original. It was just, I would find a reference picture from a show that I liked, or a character that I really liked, and I would just draw them. But I would spend so much time doing that, or I would journal. I do still keep a journal, and I journal pretty often. That's been the one thing that I have remained consistent at, but I did used to put a lot more effort into my journals, that's for sure. I don't know, I just used to spend more time being creative, and I feel like I'm missing that now, as I'm, I guess, just relying on dopamine, or maybe it's serotonin, I don't remember which one, but whatever happiness chemical that you get when you look at social media apps. I'm trying to sort of take that away and go back towards hobbies, like creative hobbies. So I started off that, I don't know, attempt with this whole film photography thing. It was just kind of, I guess it felt right. It sort of came into my atmosphere around the time that I was thinking about a lot of these things, and so I started with this, and then I ended up getting a new desk space, and I watched a few videos of people reorganizing, sort of renovating, but not anything huge, like a mini reno of their sort of office creative spaces, and it made me feel really inspired to give myself a place where I can be creative in whichever way I want, whenever I want, and whenever I have time. So I started on this whole, I started down this rabbit hole. Is it a rabbit hole? A rabbit trail? Rabbit trail? I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I started down this path of making this space for myself, and it's turned into a much bigger project than I maybe imagined it would be, but I'm certainly not mad at it. It's actually been really, really fun so far, because the sort of project of giving myself a space to be creative is already a project, if you know what I mean, because I don't know, I'm like hanging things on the wall, and I'm building things, and I'm painting things, and I'm customizing things for what I want. I invested in some new tech as well to sort of help me with my projects, and I ended up building a keyboard for myself for the first time. I had an idea to maybe do a video with the keyboard once it's fully built and assembled, because I do think it sounds very nice, if I do say so myself. So maybe in the future I'll do a little keyboard ASMR or something, but I've just had all these like mini projects that I've been working on that sort of are working towards this bigger goal of having this creative space for myself, and it's been really fun so far. It has been testing my patience, because I'm the sort of person person that when I finish a project, when I start a project, I want to finish it like immediately. I want it to be like a one and done thing, but that is simply not how projects work, and especially not a big project like this, so it's been testing my patience and maybe a little bit of my creative skills, because I've had to come up with some creative solutions and ideas that I haven't had to think like that in a very long time, I guess. And so it's been tough for me to be patient, but it has been really fun so far. So I am excited for when I finally have everything finished and I am able to just have my space and be creative. Like I have all my painting supplies in a little rolly cart right now, and I finally put out some books and my journal and my schedule for next year. I have my photography journal, I have my regular journal, I have a few books that I want to read and a few books that I am reading. I have also bought a new sort of storage unit for all of my pens and things, which journaling is one of my favorite, I guess, creative hobbies, because I don't put any pressure on myself when I'm journaling. I have no expectations for what I can do. I have no goals, so it's sort of like I can put as little or as much effort into it as I want, and however it comes out, it's always fulfilling, and it's always nice that I've done it and that I've spent my time just writing. So that's been really fun. I've also started working on a few other scripts for videos and things like that, so I will hopefully be able to make more video content the way that I used to. I didn't find it, but the first camera I ever used in any capacity was this old camcorder, like dinosaur of a piece of technology that I swear I thought my parents had thrown out. I thought it was dead and gone. But it's funny how the universe works sometimes, because I remembered it maybe like a week or so ago. I remembered the camera, and I wished to myself that I still had it. And then a week later, or a few days later, I got a text from my mother, she showed me a picture of it, and she told me she had found it, and I asked her to save it for me, and she did. And I thought, it probably doesn't work, but may as well try. So I bought a charger for the battery off of eBay, and when it arrived, I plugged it in, I charged it, I put the battery in the camera, and it made the sound that it had made when I was using it when I was a kid, and it felt crazy to hear those sounds again, because it's a very mechanical sounding thing. You can hear exactly what it's doing all the time. It's that type of old, I guess. And I couldn't believe it. It still functions the exact same way that it used to. It records on mini cassette tapes, so it's not super convenient, but I definitely intend to do something with it. I don't know what, but something, because the visuals are just so cool. They're so stylized. They happen to be in right now, so that's kind of convenient, but that was also sort of a part of my whole being creative in my free time thing, because now I have this, and I have the camera that you're watching me clean, and I've got my video projects, I've got also I'm sure yours as well. But so far it's been really fulfilling, so I would encourage you to, I don't know, get back to more physical things, more tangible things, more creative things if you are a creatively inclined person. I know not everyone is, but I very much am. I've been trying, as a part of it, to also read more. I read a decent amount when I was younger, but I always kind of felt like what I was doing wasn't real reading, real being in quotation, because I was reading comic books and manga and fan fiction, but I was reading. That's really all that matters. I was still reading, and so I do still read comic books occasionally, but I've been trying to read non-fiction books. I'm the type of person who, if I want fiction, if I want to engage with something that is fictitious, I would rather have some kind of visual element, I guess, because the manga and the comic books that I read are all fiction. But I've really not found a lot of fiction books that I really enjoy or are even interested in reading at all. I find myself much more interested in non-fiction books because I like to learn. So I feel like I would rather learn with reading than I would be entertained by it, I guess, because I can do that with movies or music or other types of media. So I started reading a book. Do you ever do the thing where you buy a book and you have it for a while and you tell yourself you're gonna read it and then you just don't, and years and years and years go by, and then one day you look at it again and you go, I should probably read that, shouldn't I? That's me. I bought this book, I think I was in high school, I don't know, it was a long time ago. It's called The Peregrine, and I bought it because a musician that I like had put it on a list of books that he liked, and I went through that whole list and I picked a random one, and it happened to be The Peregrine. It's a relatively short book. I don't remember how many pages it is, but I know I think it's under 300, so it's pretty short. But I had it for so long and I just never started it, and I finally started reading it, and it is a non-fiction book. It is a book about the peregrine, which is a bird, and I may be wrong, but I believe that in the context of this book, the peregrine is what people in the UK call falcons, or it's just another name for falcon, because this book was written by a person who lives somewhere in the UK, and when you look up peregrine, it does come up with the word falcon. So anyway, this is all to say it is a non-fiction book. It is about this bird, but it is this man who follows. He's a bird watcher, I guess, and so he follows the peregrine, or multiple, like, different peregrines, different falcons. He watches them, and so the first portion of the book is him sort of giving an overview of the habits of the bird, the I don't know, the hunting patterns, the places where they like to reside, how they find food, how they grief. Of course, I'm a obsessive person at times, so I definitely understand that, but to me it reads a little bit like it's fiction, and so it's kind of been keeping me interested because I do get to learn about these birds, and I get to sort of understand how they live their life, which is an interesting thing, actually. I guess I'm interested in birds. I didn't know that before I started reading this book, but I don't know, just something about the way that he wrote the man, or himself, I guess. I don't remember the name of the author, I'm sorry, but it's just so interesting to me because it is nonfiction, but sometimes it ends up feeling like fiction, and so it's this weird, to me it's a hybrid, but it is factual, so that's interesting. But I've been trying to finish that so that I can dig into a film theory book that I have, and also some philosophy books that I've been meaning to read for a long time. And oddly enough, I've decided that I need to read Shakespeare. I need to understand why he is so, I guess, revered. The real reason I've decided to start reading Shakespeare is because I really like the HBO show Succession, and a long time ago I remember I watched a video essay where this person explained that a large part of the dialogue for Succession is written in iambic pentameter, which is a rhythm, it's a pattern of speaking, but it's something that was used a lot in Shakespearean plays, and it's a device that you can use to subtextually communicate power and which characters have which power during which point in the yada yada yada, all that. And I was fascinated by that because I hated Shakespeare when we had to read it in high school. I thought it was so boring, and I could never actually understand what was going on. But I had seen I think it's one of the Coen brothers did Macbeth a little while ago with A24, and Denzel Washington stars. I believe it's Macbeth. Yeah. And I had watched that, and that was the first time that I truly remember understanding Shakespeare, because Denzel Washington and the rest of the cast did their jobs really well, and they did what I imagine people do when they perform Shakespeare, which is you kind of don't need to fully understand the dialogue itself if the actors and the performers are doing their job, because they're communicating with every other part of themselves, and that's really how you're understanding the story. And so I watched that movie, and I understood it, and it was breathtaking because it was the first time that I had really understood it. And then I had watched this video essay a few years later, and I was so taken by the fact that they used that for so much of the dialogue that I had decided that I needed to find some kind of Shakespeare something and read it and study it and try to figure it out for myself. So I started reading A Midsummer Night's Dream, and I'm lucky the version that I borrowed has sort of notes on Shakespeare, just in general. It's got notes on his sentence structure, on his dialogue, on just generally how to read Shakespearean plays. So it's sort of like it guides you along as you read it, which has been really helpful because even though my brain is much more developed now and I do have a better understanding of literature, and my comprehension skills are just better than they were when I was in high school, of course. Even with all of that, there's still some moments where I have to reread sentences this over and over because I don't understand. So it's good to have the. I'm glad to have that sort of guide in the book. I'm very lucky that just so happens to be in the play that I decided to start reading. So it's been all sorts of different kinds of creative stuff that I've been fiddling around with recently. As you can see, I have moved on to cleaning the lens of this camera now, and not the body. Some of the framing for this is a little bit better, and some of it is a little bit worse, I'll be completely honest. It was really fun cleaning the lens because the lens was the dirtiest part of the camera, which is funny given how much dirt you just saw come off of the body of the camera, but the lens itself was really dusty, and I don't know, it was more satisfying to clean the lens to me. A lot of it made really nice sounds too, but my mic is not good enough to actually pick up on them, so again, hence the voiceover. But I want to thank you for taking the time to watch me clean this camera and listen to me ramble about whatever I've been rambling about, or assorted creative things, I guess. I still have some time left, but I just wanted to thank you because you are taking your time to watch this little thing that I've created, and I appreciate it. I have been watching a lot of movies recently too. There were, I believe it's 4 movies that had releases on or around Christmas. I know this year it was Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, A Complete Unknown, which is a Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothy Chalamet, Baby Girl starring Nicole Kidman, and I don't really know why people included The Brutalist, which is a new A24 movie starring Adrian Brody. I don't really know why they included it, because I don't believe it's gotten its wide release yet. Even though it is past Christmas, I think it's still just doing a limited release, because I believe I saw the wide releases sometime in January. It's not playing near me, so I'm just assuming, but I have seen Nosferatu. I saw it when it came out, and I really enjoyed it. I've seen all of the other Nosferatu films, and I do also enjoy those movies very much. So it was cool to see this new version done so well. I really liked that he's actually scary, Orlok or Nosferatu, in this version, because all the previous versions, I'm sure maybe when they came out, they had some kind of element of horror to them, I guess, but watching them presently they're great movies, but they're not scary. They're just not scary compared to what is normalized as being scary now, or what you're maybe used to when you think of a scary movie. And then I watched this new one and was scared, but in a very excited way, because I really never thought I would get to see a good balance of being scared by this creature, by this vampire, but in a way where it's, I guess, truthful to the original, which is, I believe, public domain now, because it's 100 years old, or over 100 years old. It came out in 1912, recently that it's the same person who directed Walk the Line, which is a biopic about Johnny Cash that came out a number of years ago, I believe, before the present that we're in, where every other month there's a biopic about a random musician. This was way before that. So it was just kind of its own thing, and it's regarded as one of the better biopics that's been made. Apparently, that director also made this movie a complete unknown, so I'm sort of interested in it now for that reason. So I might see it soon, but that's basically where I'm at in terms of media and creativity and creative projects and things. I did clean a little bit more of my camera after I finished recording this, but we have come to the end of the video, so I want to thank you again for taking the time to hang out with me and watch me clean my camera and listen to me ramble. I'll see you soon.